The writers of the show have just cast a brand new character for season 4. One single character whose very description acts as a flashing neon sign that doesn't say diner. That confirms the entire theory. What if the real villain is not a monster at all? He's a father, and the show's greatest hero is the son in an eternal chess game between a father who cannot forgive himself and a son who refused to stop trying to save him. For weeks, this has been killing me. The most powerful explanation for the events in From. But now we have proof. Today we're laying out the definite case, and then I will show you the one new character that proves it all. You think you know who the villain of From is? For 2 seasons, we have been led to believe is the smiling, beautiful monsters. We have been told the town itself is the enemy, a conscious entity playing with its food. The reality is that the monsters are the original parents who committed an unspeakable sin. And while that's true, it's only the first layer of the reality. What if I told you that every single monster, every rule, every looping road, and every single death is just a symptom of a much more intimate, more tragic conflict? So this is not just another theory, this is the code that unlocks the entire show. The man in yellow and the boy in white are not just random forces of good and evil. They are 2 poles of a single family trauma that shattered reality itself and created this prison. Every rule, every single death is a question being asked. We'll break down who the man in yellow really was, why the boy in white is so powerful, and how their personal tragedy explains every single mystery in the town. You won't just know who the real villain is, you will understand the entire system. But to understand the real villain, we first have to remember the original sin.
It promised them that they would live forever.
This one line changed everything. They're the original colonial parents, most likely Puritans, going by the clothes and the painting, who found themselves in a desperate situation, going by the cave drawing. Their crops were failing, their children were dying from mysterious illness, and in their fear, they prayed for salvation, and something answered. It was not God, it was an ancient entity from the forest, and it offered them a devil's bargain. Sacrifice your children in a ritual of fate, and in return, you'll be granted eternal life. Led by their priest, their spiritual father, they made the choice. They convinced themselves it was an act of mercy to end their children's suffering. They performed the ritual. They sang the lullabies. In that moment, they were granted what they were promised, immortality. But it was a cruel joke. They became the very monsters they feared their children were becoming, cursed to live forever, reenacting their sin every single night. They remember what parents who killed their children before. This is the foundation. The town runs on the engine of this parent-child trauma, but this was just the first piece of the puzzle. But now, it's no longer a theory. The writers of the show have just handed us the smoking gun, and in season 4, it's not released yet. They recently announced a new character for season 4. Her name is Sophia, and her official character description is the following: a sheltered and vulnerable pastor daughter. Let that sink in. This is not just a random casting announcement. This is a direct, flashing neon sign from the writers confirming the entire theory. They're not just adding a new character, they're adding a new, perfectly calibrated variable to their ongoing story. And she is assigned to test the very core of this entire system. So let's break down why this is so mind-blowing. First, pastor's daughter. The man in yellow, going from the theory, was a priest, a father, a spiritual father. The boy in white was his son. And now they're introducing a pastor's daughter. The writers have literally created a direct modern-day reflection of the original sin. She's the next child to be brought into this story, and her entire identity is defined by her relationship with a spiritual father and God. This is not a coincidence. This is a deliberate theme of the highest order. Second, sheltered and vulnerable. Remember, the town chooses the broken and the disconnected. What is more disconnected from the brutal reality of the world than a sheltered child? She's a walking, talking bundle of pure fate energy, and the man in yellow is about to throw her into the meat grinder of his despair. She's the perfect fuel for the fate versus chaos battery that powers the town. Her revival is gonna be a test for every character. For Boyd, she is another child. He will feel an overwhelming need to help. Will he succeed? Or will his own corruption now lead him to fail her? For the man in yellow, she's a direct, painful reminder of his own son, but also battery. Will he use her as another subject, or will her innocence somehow break his centuries of guilt? The writers have just handled us the central conflict of season 4. The fractal trauma is no longer just a theory about the past. It is now an active, ongoing experiment with a brand new test subject. The Man in Yellow has just introduced a new piece onto the board, a perfect innocent pawn, and he's waiting to see how everyone else is going to react to this. Because to understand why this prison continues to exist, you have to understand those two people at the center of that original sin, the first to sin and the first to be sacrificed. The Man in Yellow is different from the other monsters, and the show goes to great lengths to prove it. He can walk in the daylight. He wears a modern business suit, not old clothes. He knows everyone's names, their fears, their deepest secrets. This is because he's not just in the prison. He is the prison. He was the original priest, the father with a capital F to his congregation. He was the one who read the Bible, who provided faith, but then convinced his flock that sacrificing their children was God's will. He was a spiritual leader who led them all to hell. And to seal the deal, to prove his own fate, he sacrificed his own son first. In that moment of ultimate betrayal, his guilt was so profound, so reality-breaking that his mind shattered and became the town itself. This is why he knows the book. This is why he's writing the book. Prom is not a physical place. It's a living consciousness in a way, a mind trapped in a loop of eternal punishment. Every road that circles back is his own obsessive thoughts, looping endlessly. Every rule about day and night is his fractured psyche, trying to impose some idea of order on his own chaos. He's not trapping From is trapping him. And that suit he wears is not just clothing, it's a uniform of his damnation. Think about the symbolism. Why yellow? In art, yellow is the color of Judas, the color of hearsay and betrayal. And why a business suit? Because what he did was not a spiritual act. It was a cold, hard transaction. He traded his son's life for a product called immortality. The suit is his eternal reminder that he's no longer a man of God, but a businessman who sold his own soul, and now he has a business to run. He may not ever take it off, because it's not just what he wears, it's who he is now. But he is the original sinner, the warden of his own prison, and the author of everyone's suffering. But every villain creates a hero, and in this story, the hero is the ghost of the son that died. If the Man in Yellow is the father, then the boy in white is his son. He was the first child sacrificed in the ritual, the ultimate victim of the ultimate betrayal. But here's what makes this story so cosmically tragic. The boy's love for his father, his innocence, his hope, it was so pure that not even death could extinguish it. When he died, his essence didn't vanish, it transformed. He became the living embodiment of everything his father was not. Where the Man in Yellow is guilt, darkness, and damnation, the boy in white is forgiveness, light, and hope. His pure, positive energy, a spiritual antidote to his father's poison. Proof of this, we see Alice and Boyd, Kenny and his dad, Henry and Victor. What else do we see? Kenny and his dad playing chess in episode 1. This is why he appears, guiding them, helping them. He's not trying to get them out, because how do you truly escape from inside someone else's mind? He's trying to save his father. Every person he guides towards hope, every act of love he encouraged, like Boyd protecting his family, he's desperately trying to show his father that a different choice was and still is possible. When Victor says the boy in white is changing, it's because he's getting stronger. He literally feeds on acts of paternal love. Every time a parent in From chooses correctly, every time Boyd protects Ellis, or the characters remember like Tabitha and Jade, the boy in white becomes more real, more powerful. He's the system hope-based virus, working from the inside to heal the pain his father created. Pretty much saying, hey dad, don't punish yourself. Stop creating new victims. I forgive you. But the Man in Yellow cannot accept that forgiveness, because to accept this, it will mean he have to finally admit that his son died for absolutely nothing. For 3 seasons now, the guilty father and the forgiven son makes sense. It can be the most powerful theory to explain the mechanics of everything From. The story is entering its next and perhaps final phase. This is not just random, it's a fractal, a pattern that repeats at every level. One trauma reflected infinitely. But next I will show you the secret system that controls every death in From, and the 3 ways the story can end.